Hello, good evening to all of you. Am I audible? So, this is a new course on social justice as well as social issues. Now, both are very important with respect to your new GS syllabus, and I combined these two subjects into a single course because both of them are connected and they have certain relevance with each other. This is the reason for which I connected these two courses, where I will teach social justice as well as social issues, because social justice is a social issue, and in different social issues, social justice is being violated or social injustice is there. This is the reason for which these two courses I combined into a comprehensive course. So before in today's session, I will talk about Indian society, its characteristics, features, unity, integrity, diversity, and all those. So first, you have to understand what is society. Society is a group of individuals when they share a same culture, being involved in a continuous social interaction. Congruity in a society refers to a group of individuals sharing the same culture and being involved in continuous and social interactions. When people come from same culture, what is the meaning of culture? Culture means which can be cultivated is called culture. Which can be cultivated is called culture. So cultivate केमती हुए केमती हम cultivate करचे cultivate केमती करचे ना मनकर फॉर एग्जांपल आम गोटे छोट पिला अच्छी घरे आम शिखाऊे से बड़ हो शिखाऊे घर किए आसिले नमस्कार करूँ पानी पीवा को दबू ये जिन शिखाऊ दैट इज कल्टिवेशन. So cultivation culture, what can be cultivated is called culture. जहाँ को हमें cultivate करी परिबा हमें ताको culture बोली कहूचे. Yes, to some extent manner. So society कहला में कौन बुझे ना society those who come from the same type of culture and they are involved in a continuous social interaction. There is interaction. The two main ingredients of society is culture, coming from same culture, as well as having involved in a continuous interaction with each other. Having involved in a continuous interaction with each other. As far as Indian society is concerned, this is a mega diversified society where you will be finding multiple cultures, multiple language, multiple region, and many more. That is why it is known as a pluralistic society. So unity in diversity is the tagline of Indian society. But this unity in diversity, or this diversity basically, it creates a fault line which gives birth to highly complex and protracted social issues in India. So the most important concern of our society is not limited to gender violence, regionalism, communalism, developmental issues, displacement related issues, gross human rights violation, or casteism. Rather, there are many more social issues which are involved. So as a civil servant, you have to do a DNA analysis of Indian society, because public policies, laws of the land, and a region's political history, all of them are reflections of Indian society. So in this section, we will cover these topics. These are the topics we need to cover: orientation, features of the Indian society, population, casteism in India, caste system, ST population, religious minorities, women's safety and women empowerment, rural India, urban India. Rural India many times conferred as Bharat, and urban India is called as India. Social movements in India, impact of liberalization, privatization, and globalization on the Indian society, secularism, communalism, regionalism, current issues related to LGBTQ plus community, elderly population, ये सब cover करिया. These are the topics that we have to cover. Now let's start. Now let's start the discussion on Indian society and the characteristics of Indian society, salient features of the Indian society. So after this class, these are the learning outcomes. You'll come to know the characteristics of Indian society, the diversity in Indian context, the sources of diversity in India like language, family, caste, religion, racial diversity. Then you'll come to know about factors affecting social change in India, factors resisting social change in India, pluralism, unity in diversity, and all those. Let's first be introduced with the Indian society. As I discussed, Indian society is a pluralistic society. Pluralistic society means there is unity, still there is unity in diversity. Diversity exists, unity exists among diversity. So there are different cultures, different religion, different language. People belong to different caste, different community, different religion. They speak different language. They belong to different region. There are several foreign invasions. There is Mughal rule, British rule. Still, despite of all these disintegrating or breaking factors, in India we have national unity and integrity. So Indian society is unique in sense that it is popularly called as a mosaic of cultures. So it has withstood external cultural threats. So this cultural uniqueness, it could give a strength to Indian society to fight against the British Raj as a unified entity. So 19th century onwards, if you go through the history of India, then you'll be finding 19th century onwards, there has been growing conflicts of cultures because of emergence of new forces. There are different factors which added uh, to this cultural diversity. So there are dissimilarities or inequalities in India, I can say, and these inequalities are because of two factors basically. One is centripetal force, centripetal factors, and centrifugal factors. Centripetal or centrifugal factor the factors which are born inside India itself, ଯେମିତି କି ମୁଁ କହିବି casteism, inequality, poverty. Then factors which are born outside India, ଯେମିତି କି ମୁଁ କହିବି left wing extremism ହେଇଗଲା, like militancy, insurgency, terrorism, and all those. So in India we have common political structure, common legal system, uniform administrative structure, educational system, growing economic independence. So all these things make the Indian society a great society. As well as apart from all these things, there are also technological and cultural impact of process of westernization, which led to the inception of modern means of transportation and communication. There are new printing technologies. All these things also have impact on the Indian society. Then introduction of English and Hindi language as far as secularization is concerned. So India रे जदि आमे देखिबा तर geographic, ethnic, religious एवं linguistic history dates back to Indus Valley civilization. So Indian society dates back to 5,000 years. The civilization gave rise to a form of culture which we see now in a more complex and complicated form. So during this temporal span, several waves of immigration representing different ethnic groups, linguistic communities, religious background. So all these things, all these things with the native population, they contribute to diversity, richness, and vitality of the country. So basically in India, you'll be finding Aryans. Aryans, they belong to a pastoral community. They have mastery over poetry, philosophical, and speculation, elaborate rituals. Aryans, they consider themselves as superiors. They practice endogamy. They had a notion of ritual purity, pollution. So these ideals of Aryans, it created the origin of Varna. Varna means complexion, as well as Jati. Jati means caste. So the two things are different. One is Varna, complexion, Kuneki, Audala, caste. So Indo-Aryans are broken into three groups. The warriors or the aristocrat groups, जहाँ को राजा कहा जाउथला, then the priest group, जहाँ को ब्राह्मण कहा जाउथला, एवं cultivator जो माने वैश्य कहा जाउथला जो मानो. So the people of non-Indo-Aryan, they were called as Shudra. Shudra किए ना जो माने Indo-Aryan origin को belong करना है, they are known as Shudra. So there is also fifth group known as the Panchama or the Avarna group. Panchama group or the Avarna group. But पंचम ग्रुप और द अबोर्न ग्रुप जहाँ आदिवासी बोली कह कि आदिवासी दे आर द ओरिजिनल इनहाबिटेंट्स ऑफ इंडिया, whereas Aryans they invaded India, they came from India. So there are different theories, Aryan invasion theory, but I personally put a lot of question mark on this Aryan invasion theory and many other theories which created this concept of Aryans and non-Aryans. Rather, all are, in my opinion, all are natives of India, including the tribal population as well as the Aryan population. Aryan invasion theory, this is a politico-strategically motivated theory just to discriminate India with the basic intention of diverting the diversity of India and creating different fractures in the Indian society. जहाँ भी हो जेहेतु एक्जिस्टिंग किछि किछि जिंस अछि से सब जिंस ऊपर हमको लेखिया पड़िबा हमें डीपली फिलोसॉफिकल लाइन बा रिसर्च लाइन में तो जाई परिबा नेठी. So Indian context जदि हम देखिबा there is evolution from the prehistoric period to the present one. Indian society is based on composite culture. There is heterogeneity pattern. The present day Indian culture is the result of cultural contact, cultural diffusion, cultural conflict, accommodation, assimilation, integration. So there are a lot of things happening to the Indian culture nowadays. The influence of West, modern West, so जहाँ को हम westernization कहूचे, influence of or modernization जहाँ कहूचे. So there is a lot of changes in the socio-cultural dynamism in India as well. Apart from this introduction of new technologies like information and communication technology, that form a new type of culture where you can connect to people or public anywhere in the world. So LPG, liberalization, privatization, globalization, so it also changed the Indian culture. It also changed the Indian culture. So there are a lot of impact on Indian culture. There are a lot of impact on the Indian culture. So it is changed, it is diversified, it is multifaceted because of tolerancy of the Indian culture, because of tolerancy that exists in the Indian society. We accept everything, we observe everything. This is the reason for which India is the origin country for many of the India is the originating country for many of the religions, may it be Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism. So India is the originating country. Jodi India गोटे intolerant country हितांता ताली एक religion सब एटी exist ही पर नथन उत्पत्ति ही पर नथन. So the culture in India is highly traditional, whereas in the Western countries, the West was modernizing in terms of rationalism, individualism, and utilitarianism. The Western culture that is based on universalism and egalitarianism. So when there was British rule in India, a new structure of society that was developed. There was a lot of changes in the Indian education system, in the Indian judiciary, in the Indian military. So there was stratification of the society also created, because very basic objective of Britishers were very basic objective of Britishers is to divide people into different groups. So the objective was divide and rule. So on the basis of language, region, religion, so on divide kariyak. So there was also introduction of new and modern means of transport and communication, which increased spatial and social mobility. There is new printing technology, postal services, radio services. So in current time period, information and communication technology like WhatsApp, Twitter, Facebook, because of all these things, you can connect to a person who is in far distance place from you. So you can learn their culture, you can interact with them. So basically cultures are open-ended. When you will interact with a person, then automatically you will observe something from him, and simultaneously you will also influence that person. You will be influenced and you will influence that person. So culture is not about very static. Culture is not about close-ended. Rather, this is open-ended. This is dynamic in nature. So because of impact of westernization, it resulted into emergence of a new westernized elite in place of traditional elite of Indian society. And the modern elite, they were inspired by a new ideology and value system. In a way, they looked at their own society. So it proposed a new interpretation to the Hinduism and caste system and all those. So this is the basic of Indian society. Now coming to the characteristics of Indian society. Indian society ର characteristics कौन? Indian society कहाँ का ऊपर बेस करछ? एति पॉइंट बुझलो जा जा कहली, एति पॉइंट क्लियरली बुझेला जा जा कहली. डाउट होती पचार निजर व्यू जदि के किसी दवा पर दियो इंडियन सोसाइटी ऊपर. Any view on Indian society? बुझला कि नहीं? हो आग बुझिबा ताले. Characteristics of Indian society. So Indian culture जदि हम देखिबा एटा गोटे ancient culture. It evolves continuously. Indian culture and tradition, they have been existing for last 5,000 years. So Indian cultural heritage is of unique nature. There are a series of civilizations, cultures, they emerged, they disappeared. So changing the Indian society, influencing the Indian society. So most important characteristics is doctrine of karma. Doctrine of karma, karma means deed. जे जहाँ करिति कोनदिन कथा जे जहाँ करि तार कर्म फल भोगिबो. Exactly the same thing is here. So this belief in doctrine of karma, it made the people realize that present life is the only link in the infinite chain of birth and rebirth. So everyone is bound to reborn in his or her next birth according to his own karma. So this karmic reaction, it compels the adherence to good means of social control. याकू डरिकी ही भल काम खराब काम याकू डरिकी ही कौन करती लोक कि हाँ भल काम करी खराब काम करी अदरवाइज मोर नेक्स्ट जनरेशन टा खराब हम नेक्स्ट बार्थ टा मोर खराब हो. So doctrine of karma plays very important role in the Indian culture. Then different religions are connected to different rituals like fasting, festival, pilgrimage, marriage, birth, death, issue. Then is dharma as a life center of society. Dharma कहले हमें कौन बुझे ना ये basic idea in different fields of society according to the Indian social thought. Religion and spirituality, they have influenced our intellectual, philosophical, artistic, scientific means of life. So we put focus on dharma. Then is scientific aspect of Indian heritage. Indian heritage or scientific, there are a lot of scientific aspect of Indian heritage. So different scholars different scholars, according to different scholars, Indian heritage is mainly religio-philosophical, but Indian heritage is not religio-philosophical. Rather, this is based on clear-cut science and technology. So, for example, the culture is based on astronomy or astrology, which is based on the movement of different planets, which is a mathematical calculation. Culture is based on creation of different construction of different heritage or different structure of architecture. So where there is use of different civil engineering and trigonometry and many other parts of mathematics, integral calculus and many more. So our culture is based on Yoga Shastra. Excuse me. Which is a science again. Charaka Samhita, Sushruta Samhita, Ashtanga Hridaya. So all these are based on Ayurveda. All these are based on different science and technology. Indian culture is based on metallurgy of iron, zinc, copper, alloys, different alloys, they are huge. Then there are importance of different animals in the Indian society, mountains, rivers, we respect and we worship mountains, river, forest, lake, land, animal. We river Ganga as the mother, river Yamuna, river Saraswati, Triveni Sangam. ये सब आम कल्चर भीतर इंटीग्रेट ହେଇକି ଅଛି. Then is unity. Unity ର अर्थ कोन ना unity means integration. Unity ର अर्थ होची integration. Integration कोन? Integration गोटे सोशियो साइकोलॉजिकल concept. Integration by unit ର अर्थ होची it denotes the sense of oneness. This denotes the sense of we-ness. It refers to the bond which binds the member of a society together. So there is a difference between unity and uniformity. So uniformity includes similarity and unity. So unity दी प्रकार गोटे यूनिफॉर्मिटी रो आसे आ गोटे डिफरेंस रो आसे यूनिटी कोदर गोटे यूनिफॉर्मिटी रो आसे जति सेम टाइप रो अछि ताले यूनिटी सेम टाइप रो आ गोटे डिफरेंस रो मध्ये यूनिटी आसीबो जोटा इंडियन कॉन्टेक्स्ट हमको देखिया को मिले. Then is diversity. Diversity in practical term, diversity means difference, but in social context diversity is very specific. Diversity is collective difference among people, maybe in terms of language, geography, economy, region, religion and many more. Then what about diversity in the Indian context? What about diversity in the Indian context? You cannot think about India without thinking about diversity. So the continental dimension of the country that accounts for the amazing variation and diversities. It look at the vastness of the land, on the geography, on the ecological condition. So different ethnic elements, religion, sects, cults, school of philosophy, family structure, marriage, rituals. So Indian literature, epics, dance, drama, cinema, theater, music, painting, sculpture, scriptures, architectures. So all these things shows the diversity that exists in India. Now coming to what are the major sources of diversity in India? Coming to what are the major sources of diversity in India? First is the region. Region केमती गोटे diversity समस्ते बुझी पड़थिबो, because in India we have different regions, in different geographical regions. India is like a subcontinent. So there are snow covered Himalaya in the northern plain, and there is desert in the west, Deccan Plateau, coastal plain, northeast India. So having different geographical features, geographical units. So that resembles different culture. Geography also relates to culture. Geography also gives birth to culture. जो माने नई कूल रहिबे तांका कल्चर डिफरेंट, जो माने पहाड़ रहिबे तांकर कल्चर कोन, व्हाट यू ईट, व्हाट यू योर ड्रेसिंग सेंस, योर ईटिंग हैबिट्स, योर फूड हैबिट्स, योर लैंग्वेज, ये सब को नहीं कल्चर क्रिएट हुए. So geography definitely influences your food habit. Geography influences the way you speak, the way you think. जदि पहाड़िया जगह रहू तो ठंडा जगह रहू तो स्लो भावियो, गरम जगह रहू तो जल्दी भावियो. जदि फ्रंटियर रे रहू तो लैंड फ्रंटियर बा बॉर्डर रे रहू तो ताले एक्टिव हो, काहे शत्रु केतବେଳେ आक्रमण करि पारे. जदि भीतर रहू तो ताले बेसी एक्टिव होबनी, टिके लेजी हो। So region gives diversity in India. Region gives diversity in India. Then linguistic diversity. Linguistic diversity. ये कहाँ पर focus करची? Now India has been a subject of great interest for study among the linguistic because there are different type of language that we speak in India. According to report of Census Commissioner, 121 languages are spoken by 10,000 or more people. More than 19,500 languages or dialects are spoken in India as mother tongue. So, the magnitude of India's linguistic diversity that can be estimated by the fact that here more than 200 languages are spoken by different groups. So basically Indian language I can divide into four parts. Ostric family जाको निषाद बोली कहा जाए, Dravidian family जाको द्राविड़ कहा जाए, Sino-Tibetan family जाको किरट बोली कहा जाए, and Indo-European family जाको आर्यन बोली कहा जाए. So the language includes in these four language families that shows diversity in India. Ostric family mainly the language or the dialects of Central Indian tribal population like the Santal, Munda, Ho, एमान जो language use करें that is the Ostric family. सबुठ अधिक कहती इंडो आर्यन फैमिली, इंडो आर्यन लैंग्वेज ग्रुप एमाने अप्रोक्सीमेटली 73%. द्राविडियन लैंग्वेज ग्रुप दे आर 20%. ऑस्ट्रिक ग्रुप 1.38 and सिनो तिबेतन 0.85% respectively. So सिनो तिबेतन लैंग्वेज बेसिकली दे आर द ट्राइबल पॉपुलेशन ऑफ नॉर्थ ईस्टर्न रीजन. द्राविडियन लैंग्वेज होची तेलुगु, तमिल, कन्नड़ा, मलयालम, गोंडी. The largest people they speak Indo-Aryan language. Indo-Aryan language भीतर क्या आसुची ना पंजाबी, सिंधी and राजस्थानी, गुजराती, मेवाड़ी, हिंदी, उर्दू, छत्तीसगढ़ी, बंगाली, घरवाली, मैथिली ये सब आसुनी Indo-Aryan family भीतर. Then the next one is the village and its economic system. So the villages they were economically self-sufficient with the existence of jajamani system, caste-wise division of labor and payment of grain. Payment गुड़ा को टंका रे होनतला grain ने उतरा जिस दी काम कर. So non-monetization was there. There was also poor communication and transportation. Poor communication and transportation related to the flow of goods. Then is family, marriage and kinship. Family is the very basic of society. One of the foremost and indispensable unit in the Indian society. It happens to assume that all families are like the ones we live in. No other social institution appears more universal and unchanging than family. So family ही best, family नु ही भी ओडिया कौन लगे ओडिया आसुनी ओडिया आसुची ना ओडिया भी आसुची. Family टा होची best culture. Then joint family system. Joint family system रो very basic point कोई दूची. So sharing is the concept of joint family system. Sharing माने कौन कहला? Sharing रो अर्थ होची joint family system रो basic है तो पिला माने छोटो अछंती तांको बाप मां बा बड़ गुरुजन माने बढ़िबे जेतल सेमाने बुढ़ा बुढ़ी हे जिवे तांको पिला बड़ हो जैतिबे सी चलेबे. एटाला joint family system रो बहुत गोटे basic concept जोटा इंडियन कल्चर को स्ट्रेंथन करे. बट वेस्टर्न कल्चर देखियो पिला छोटो थिला बेले बाप मां ताको छाड़ देकी पळेबे तांको ऑफिस को एटी कोन हेडा कोंती क्रेच रे छुआ बड़ हो जा परे बाप मां को नेकी छाड़ दबो कोठी अनाथ आश्रम रे. Then is caste diversity. Caste is all about a system of hierarchical ranking depending on the birth को जगह रे के जन्म होइछे. So there are four caste groups and an outcast group. पंचम वर्ण ब्राह्मण, ब्राह्मण, क्षत्रिय, आउ वैश्य आउ शूद्र. So caste system टा डेवलप केमिति हला ना बेसिकली यार ऑब्जेक्टिव थिला टू मिनिमाइज द इकोनॉमिक कंपटीशन बाय डिटरमाइनिंग ऑक्युपेशन ऑफ डिफरेंट कास्ट. तो एति की लोक एई काम करिवे जे चुटी काटला से बारिक ता माने सेठी आ कंपटीशन न बढ़िया पई तांकू से माने ही खाली से काम करिवे आ किछ करिवे. So it minimizes the economic competition. It restricts and limits the range of choosing a spouse. So you cannot go beyond the casteism or caste system to choose your spouse. Then this caste structure is also related to occupation. Occupation को केमती बुझी पार्थो समस्या किसी बुझार नहीं, because that is very much linked to occupation किए को टाइप रो काम करियो, किए blacksmith हो, किए water carrier हो, किए leather worker हो, so fixed. Then caste structure is also related to power. Caste structure is also related to power. कहाँ पाकर ना upper caste पाकर रोला maximum power. So then later on the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act came. Village panchayat asila. Village panchayat is a very democratic institution. जदि हरियाणा रे गोटे खाप पंचायत देखा जाए तो सुनी थी कि एटी रीजनल कास्ट स्ट्रक्चर अछि, ये कास्ट अनुसार पावर को डिवाइड करूछ हला। ये गला कास्ट कथा तापर रेशियल फैक्टर। रेशियल फैक्टर ये कुछ इंडिया रे 6 प्रकार रेशियल ग्रुप देखा जाती। गोटेला नेग्रिटो ग्रुप बेसिकली एमाने अंडमानीज आंगामी नागाज बागाड़ी ऑफ राजमहल हिल्स बिहार। सो एमानकर स्ट्रक्चर छोटो, ब्लैक स्किन, ब्लैक और उली हेयर, ब्रॉड लिप्स और नोज, थिक लिप्स एंड ब्रॉड नोज, नेग्रिटो। Second is the proto-australoids. They belong to the mid India in general. एमाने short और medium structure, long और high head, broad and small nose. Indo-Aryan एमानकु proto-australoid एमानकु दास बोली कहंती बा निषाद बोली कहंती। Then is mongoloid हेला दी प्रकार, पालियो मंगोलॉइड और तिब्बत मंगोलॉइड। पालियो मंगोलॉइड होचंती नागा जो हिमालय रीजन में नागा और नॉर्थ ईस्ट देखा जाती। तिब्बत मंगोलॉइड एमाने सिक्किम और भूटान में देखा जाती। Then मेडिटेरेनियन दे आर कनेक्टेड टू द द्राविडियन लैंग्वेज एंड कल्चर। मेडिटेरेनियन साधारणतः 3 प्रकार, पालियो मेडिटेरेनियन एमानकर मीडियम हाइट, डार्क स्किन एवं दे आर स्लाइटली बिल्ड लाइक कर्नाटका, तमिलनाडु, केरला जो माने देखा जाती। देन प्राइमरीली मेडिटेरियन एमानकर फेयर कॉम्प्लेक्शन एमाने पंजाब रे देखा जाती। देन ओरिएंटल मेडिटेरेनियन एमानकर लॉन्ग नोज और फेयर स्किन। देन वेस्टर्न ब्रासिसेफल्स 3 भाग रे डिवाइड होचंती। अल्पिनॉइड्स जो माने नॉर्थ एवं वेस्ट इंडिया देखा जाती। देन डायनारिक जो माने बंगाल और ओडिसा रे। देन आर्मेनॉइड्स जो माने पेरिस रे देखा जाती। देन द 6th group is the Nordic group. They are similar to Aryans and they have fair skin, medium and long head. They are narrow nose and tall structure. Next is the tribal population in India. So geographically the tribals are, you can geographical distribution जदि हम करिया 5टा जगह रे हम डिवाइड करि परिबा। हिमालयन ग्रुप, हिमालय रे गद्दी सेपार्ट्स, जौनसारीज, नागा एमाने देखा जाती। मिडिल इंडिया रे मुंडा, सांताल देखा जाती। वेस्टर्न इंडिया रे भील और ग्रासिया देखा जाती। साउथ इंडिया रे तोड़ा, छेंचू ट्राइब देखा जाती। आइलैंड रे जरवा इन बे ऑफ बंगाल, आमिनदीबी रे मध्य जरवा देखा जाती। देन अरेबियन सी रे कोयाज माने देखा जाती। एमाने different tribal group in India. Now coming to the religious diversity that exists in India, Hinduism is the most popular and dominant faith which is practiced almost by 80% of Indian population. Second one is the Islam group. So Hinduism is the only religious tradition which is so complex and diversified. There are many subsects inside Hindu religion as well, like the हिंदू रिलीजन सबसेक्ट गुड़ा कौन अच्छी, जो मैंने शिव को पूजा कले शैव, जो मैंने शक्ति पूजा कले शाक्त, जो मैंने विष्णु को पूजा कले वैष्णव। So different religions observed festivals observed like Deepavali, Holi, Dasara, Ganesh Puja, Pongal, Janmashtami, Shivaratri. The Rig Veda, Ramayana, Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita, they are the sacred text. Then Islam had its advent in the 7 AD when the Arab traders came to the Malabar coast. So Islams, they have only one God, monotheism. They believe in Allah. So Holy Quran is their religious book they use. Prophet Muhammad, it was pronounced by Prophet Muhammad. He is the real messenger and perfect creation of God. So their really spiritual path is tariqat. So Haji is the supreme pilgrimage of Makkah. So basically they worship one God. They go for canonical prayer, namaz. They go for fasting. Fasting ko roja, charity, zakat, and pilgrimage, Haji. So their entire Islam depends on Tawhid, namaz, roja, zakat, and Haji. Then it's Christianity. Christianity arrived in India from a different chronological angle. So when Syrian Christian traditions, Apostle Thomas, one of the 12 disciples of Christ, he came to vicinity of Cochin in 52 AD. So three modules of Christians, the religious life include faith in Jesus Christ as the messenger of God, active service and being kind to the neighbors. So Pope is the supreme head of religious affair and Bible is the sacred text. Next is Sikhism. Sikhism is the religion that came during the early 16th century in the state of Punjab in North India. It was propounded by Guru Nanak. So Guru Nanak was attracted to both Hindu and Muslim saints from his childhood. So in Sikhism there are 10 main gurus. The teaching of Guru Nanak is described in Guru Granth Sahib, the holy book of the Sikhs. So this is accepted as the symbol of God. Then Guru Arjun, the fifth guru, compiled Guru Granth Sahib and founded the Golden Temple at Amritsar, which is the holy shrine of Sikhs. Guru Gobind Singh, the 10th guru, he rendered military training to the Sikhs to train them to defend themselves. On Baisakhi 1699 at Anandpur, Guru Gobind Singh regulated his Sikh assembly. He tried to instill customs and created a new brotherhood among the Sikhs. And the Sikhs they called as Khalsa, pure ones. 5 men were selected to devote their lives to Guru, and they were called Panj Paris. So they are given nectar, Amrit, to mark their first entry into the brotherhood of Khalsa. So they believe in the 5 Ks: uncut hair, a comb, a steel wrist guard, a sword, and breeches. ଏମାନଙ୍କୁ କୁହାଯାଏ କ'ଣ men sing and women are known as kor. Men sing ମାନେ lion, women ମାନଙ୍କର kor ମାନେ princess. So Sikhism is also advocates for monotheism, worship of single god. Then Jainism it is a religious tradition entered India about the same time as Buddhism. Mahavir Jaina between 599 to 527 BC, one of the Jinas conqueror, he gave Jain philosophy. The Jain philosophy, it stemmed from beliefs and renunciation of worldly desire, self-conquest. So there are 24 Tirthankars. The first is Rishabh and the 24th is Mahavira. There are 2 main categories in Jainism, Shwetambar, white cloth, and Digambar, unclothed. The third unpopular sect is Stanakavasi. Stanakavasi represent themselves in images. So there are 5-fold discipline in Jainism, that is non-violence, truth, honesty, sexual purity, and indifference to material world. Then is Buddhism. Buddhism emerged around 6th century BC. So there are 3 ornaments of Buddhism. They are Buddha, the enlightened teacher, the Dharma, the doctrine given by the teacher, and Sangha, the community of beliefs. So the 4 noble truths which are propounded by Buddhism are: the world has sufferings. So the cause of suffering is desire. The cause of suffering can be removed. There is a means available to remove the cause of suffering. So ये कुछ कामनार विनाश रे दुखर विनाश रे निर्वाण प्राप्ति. The 8-fold path followed by Buddhism, that is right view, right aspiration, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right meditation. Buddhism has 2 categories, Hinayan and Mahajan. Hinajan, no concern for God. They regarded Buddha as the perfect man. But Mahajan, Buddha as God and evolved elaborate metaphysics involving different god and goddess. The next is Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism, it reached the Gujarat coast in 10th century after the Arabian conquest of Iran. So Zoroastrianism, it has the canon of accountability of every man and woman to choose between good and evil and to respect the God's creation. Zoroastrianism ର founder ହଉଛନ୍ତି Zarathustra. Zarathustra, he preached monotheism and lived in Iran in 6000 BC. He was the first religious prophet to propound a dualistic philosophy based on confronting powers of good and evil. So Zoroastrians, they live in Mumbai, and बा जो मानको पारसी बोली कौन से माने पारसी माने. Then is Judaism. तांको religious text होची Zenda Avesta. Judaism. Judaism is the smallest religious group in India. They are the Jews. Judaism is believed to be based on the revelation of Moses. Sacred text is called Torah. There are three communities in India. They are the Ben Israel, Kerala Jews, and the Baghdadi Jews. So all this discussion, it shows the diversity that exists in India. Existence of so much religions, caste, creed, different race, different language, different geography, so different culture. So all these things create the concept of unity and diversity in India. Now we'll discuss what are the factors that affect social change in India. Factors affecting social changes in India. The first factor is ideological factor. So you go to social change is caused by ideological factor. Ideas rule the world. Ideological factor or the philosophical factor, scientific or political aspects of influence, or the formation of ideas which influence the social change. So mu kabi ideology, Buddhism gote ideology, communism gote ideology, fascism gote ideology. यार ऊपर डिपेंड करछि जेतबे ताको सोशल चेंज ये करेओ. So communism ऊपर फोकस जे कला, socialism कहला कोन, so everything belongs to the state, private sector has no role. So ये गोटे idea, ये social change करेला इंडिया रे. So it created haves and have nots, left wing extremism हो बा extreme form जो मान socialism रो हे गले, left wing extremism हे गले से माने. So these are ideological factor which create social change. Then is cultural factor. So culture acts as a benchmark to regulate the amount and nature of social change. Different cultures, they change from generation to generation. जगह में cultural factor पूछे, ये change होती generation to generation. So new opinion and new thoughts. New opinion and new thoughts. So these are like, for example, new opinion of dowry, caste system, female education. So say no to sati pratha. So it creates social change. Female education, it creates social change. Female empowerment, women empowerment. Then education is the most important, powerful tool for social change. So education leads to modernization. Education provides you a critical thinking, of critical analysis of any issue, what to accept, what not to accept, what to do, what not to do. So education makes you a complete man. Then is materialistic attitude. Materialistic attitude means our desire towards sophisticated instruments like the television, refrigerator, air condition, all those things. So materialistic attitude is conducive to change. Then westernization. Westernization means the impact of Western ideas on us. So like town planning, or dress code, lifestyle, westernization. Then in industrialization, it is all about development of industries. So industrialization promotes agriculture, it promotes growth, more GDP, so more production, more income, personal income, so more demand, more supply, more production, contact with other parts of society through LPG and all those. Then is urbanization. Urbanization is the result of industrialization. Urbanization is the result of industrialization. Then secularization. Secularization promotes change. So secularism upar samste jana what is secularization. Then mechanicalization. Mechanicalization is industrial revolution, how it leads to introduction of machines for human activities. So the machines that change the way of thinking, they change the standard of living, means of communication. Nowadays, new form of technology is involved, like artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, there are some pros and cons, mix of consequences of implementation of artificial intelligence. Like because of use of artificial intelligence, there may be some job loss ହେଇପାରେ, but use technologically advanced phenomena ये create କରିପାରେ. Then is democratization. So India is becoming progressively democratized. What second noting? ହେଲା. Then politicization, capitalism. So ये सब जिनसर impact अच्छी कहाँ पर है on social change. Politicization रे केमती impact अच्छी? Because of political party, they have their own propaganda. Different political parties, they have their own political leader. They have their rights, duties. सेमानकर निजर political agenda अच्छी. Then capitalism. Capitalism is all about volume and means of production. ହେଲା. So capitalism also influenced art, music, literature, education, media. ये सब ऊपर मध्य आर impact अच्छी. ये खाली it is not only about the increase in production or expansion of business. Then Indianization. Indianization अर्थ होची कौन? Making everything Indian. That is Indianization. Is making everything Indian. That goes हम Indianization. Then is modernization. Modernization is a process where we bring about change in the value system. Change in the value system, institutional modifications. Then geographical factors like physical environment. So social change is not always brought about socio-cultural factors alone. Some extent of geographical factors also they are like flood, earthquake, famine, fire. ये सब मध्यम society को change करती on construction. So disaster leads to development. Construction हुए तापर. Then there are demographic factors. Demographic factor money related to population. This is all about population, like the sex ratio, institution of marriage, family, position of women in society, and all those. And then legislation means law also needs a lot of change in the society. So law is related to development. Depending on the circumstance, different laws are enacted. For example, because of use of information and communication technology, there is IT acts, different IT acts. When your privacy is being compromised while chatting in WhatsApp, Facebook, and Twitter, so your privacy compromised, your privacy may be breached. So for this reason only, there are laws like GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation in European Union came out. In India, we are having a data protection bill, which is very soon going to be the data protection law in India, which will protect your privacy in the cyberspace. So cyberspace, cyber crime, penalties related to cyber crime, punishment, all these are result of development, infusion of technology to the culture as well as change. So legislation is important, law formulation is important when we talk about some type of changes and regulating those changes. Let's talk about the BT brinjal or the GM crops, genetically modified crops. So regulate different law, pesticide regulation law. There are different laws which are related to it. So legislation is also a part of social change. Then the last point is factors resisting social change. Koko factor resist करनी social change. Factors resisting social change. बुझी पारछ ना स्पीड जाउछ. ओके तो ठीक है. So first is social barrier. Social barrier kono na, these are all about the social factors and behavior pattern like the religious orthodoxy, rigid caste and class structure, public opinion on different issues. So it creates factionalism, conflict. Then cultural barrier. Cultural barrier mane a feeling of pride or feeling of dignity in the old and traditional way. An economic barrier. There is poor economic conditions in life experienced by large section of people. There also are an obstruction in social change. Poor people, they cannot think anything except their basic necessity. ଯେପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ଆମ ପାଖରେ ବେସିକ ଜିନିଷ ଖାଇବା ପିଇବାକୁ ନାହିଁ ଆମେ କ'ଣ ଭାବିବା? ପ୍ରଥମେ ଖାଇବା ପିଇବା ସିନା ରହିଲେ ତମେ ଆଗକୁ ଭାବିବ. So economic barrier. Then psychological barrier. So psychological barrier is your excessive love for tradition, your pessimistic attitude towards social values. So these are psychological barriers. Then shortage of invention जो rate रे हवा कथा जदि न हुए ताल मध्ये social change हेई परिबन. Then isolation from the mainstream, isolation from the main social group. So ये मध्ये social barrier create करे, ये मध्ये social change create करे हैला. So this is all about the introduction to Indian society. ମୁଁ ସମସ୍ତେ ବୁଝି ପାରିଲେ ଯାହା ଆମେ ଡିସ୍କସ୍ କଲୁ. ଯଦି କିଛି ଡାଉଟ୍ ଅଛି କୁହ. Clear? क्लियर समस्त बुझिल आज डिस्कशन ना कार डाउट अछि. See, in economy, in a society, what happens? There are always a discrimination which exists. So, if the casteism hoti jauchi, then there will be classism. In the Western countries, there is classism, poor and rich. The difference between poor and rich. Casteism is no way good because the basic जो कारण ପାଇଁ caste create ହେଇଥିଲା, that cause was eroded. But whereas in nowadays casteism is used as a social discrimination, as a method of social discrimination, social stratification, so which creates underdevelopment of some section. Also, if we'll go to the current scenario of casteism, like different people, different section of community, they're trying to be included in under reservation. Reservation was given on the ground of socially and economically backwardness, as well as educationally backwardness. On these grounds, reservation was given. But nowadays, people are different communities. They are talking about, they are trying to be included under the reserved category. Now, just compare these people with the people those who are already developed and they are trying to landed on moon. So as far as economical, technological development is concerned, these people are so much developed. They're thinking about outside the world, out of the box. They're thinking about technological development. They're thinking about going to moon, going to Mars. They're thinking about artificial intelligence and so many advanced step of human life and human civilization. Whereas some section of Indian society, they are trying to confine themselves within the status of reservation, within the ambit of reservation. They're trying to that they're trying to come under the reserved category because they think or they try to prove that we are disabled person, socially, economically, educationally we are disabled, mentally disabled person, we cannot do our best in the open market in a competition. That's why we need more and more reservation, which is a question mark on the morality of this different section, those who tries to be covered under this group of reserved category. Now लोक कौन भावती कि भावती मु एडवांस हवा को जाउछि कि कोइ मु काम करि परिबिनी मु डिसेबल अछि मते रिजर्वेशन दिया जाउ. So this thinking, this attitude, it lags people behind. So these are the current issues which are associated with casteism or reservation. बुझिला. Next class रे chapter रो notes तापर हम next topic को जीवी women and development. हैला. So that's all for this session. Thank you. Thank you. Good night.